Mike Payne, president and owner of Hill Manufacturing in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
My name is Corey Bartmeyer. I'm the quality manager at Hill Manufacturing.
My name is Kyle Payne. I'm in charge of scheduling in the shop.
My name is Anthony Lang. I'm shipping receiving manager at Hill Manufacturing.
Hill Manufacturing is a precision machine and welding and fabrication shop. We generally serve the oil and gas industry, but also a lot of general industrial work, a lot of winch. We do some firearms work, flight simulator, just a little bit of everything. So when I bought Hill Manufacturing just a little over 6 years ago, there was kind of a homegrown Access database, Excel spreadsheet, Microsoft Word system in place, travelers around the shop. I had a history throughout kind of manufacturing and software and ERP systems. I knew to achieve the goals we had for growth that we would need a little bit more robust system that could help us get parts out the door. Right. So our existing system, so at that point when I bought the company had 25 years probably of data in it in an Access database. It was incredibly slow to just look up an order for a customer. You click the button and wait maybe a minute or two to get to pull up their PO to then even find out the status of the job. So we needed something that was quick and responsive to our customers. So late 90s, I was in the software business and we were integrating with ERP systems. So at that time frame, you're talking large ERP systems that were multi-million-dollar installs, but they didn't do everything. So we were on shop floors collecting data to integrate into those ERP systems. So that was my first exposure to ERP. And then throughout my history in business of buying and selling companies, a lot of those were in manufacturing, and I just saw there were a lot of homegrowns, a lot of some of the ones that are still on the market today. Just a lot of different experience with those. So I hadn't looked at ERPs in probably 6 or 7 years when I go to look for a solution for Hill. So I didn't really know what was on the market. I spent a lot of time just on the internet, just looking at what's out there. Hill had taken a few runs over that same time period at some of the common ones in the job shop environment. Unsuccessfully, had implemented 2, I think, at the time. So I was really just kind of starting from scratch, like what's up and coming. I knew, it's kind of software as a service ought to be an option for us just to help control implementation pricing and so forth. So that was of interest, and that's kind of where I ran into ProShop. I think that was my first exposure to ProShop, was the subscription model. So I first heard about ProShop actually on a Making Chips episode. So I had just bought Hill. I was looking to learn about the industry in general because I don't come from a machine shop background. Had found the Making Chips podcast and just started kind of listening from the beginning. Paul had been on one of the episodes, I think actually maybe a couple episodes in the first several I listened to, and thought this ProShop could absolutely be what I'm looking for. Jumped on a plane, kind of on a last minute notice, flew to Chicago to meet Paul and see a demo of ProShop. So I think what I liked most about ProShop when I was looking for a new solution was every ERP system I had dealt with before had been developed in the front office for the finance department or the accounting department, and not necessarily for the shop. I was interested in a solution that would get parts out the door. And what I saw in ProShop was something that would help me do that. It'll integrate with my accounting. My accounting's fine. I didn't need a more powerful, robust accounting package. I needed something that would put parts on the floor and get them to my customers on time. And ProShop did that. So the onboarding was unique. I think I challenged ProShop a little bit in my onboarding process. We met in September. I made the decision by the end of September that I was going with ProShop, and I wanted to be completely live January 1st of 19. When I set that schedule out, I was like, well, that might be a little quick, but we did it. And it was hard work kind of through November and December to get there. We took it on and we did it, and we did training every day for probably 4 to 5 days a week for an hour at a time. And we were running parallel to our old system in December, and we went live January 1st. Zach Stinson was our trainer. He was perfect for us, I think, because he had come from a shop. He understood maybe some of the more complex things about Hill and how we needed to use ProShop. Was able to take a team that, in some cases, a lot of our team had never even used a computer in a work environment, and was able to kind of walk us through that from start to finish and get us up in 60 days, something like that. So our old system used, I wouldn't even know how many processes and systems and papers and so forth. We had what we called the Bible. That was the production list of everything that was due. It was our entire backlog, and it was, you print it out once a week, and it was 25 pages thick or something. Just basically a list of part numbers and due dates. And I would sit there for an hour before we would go through it twice a week, and I'd have to highlight like common part numbers to figure out, okay, these 4 jobs, we should run them together. And it was taking just hours of management time just to keep up with what we needed to do. And then we had, countless Excel spreadsheets for ISO certification, and we had I wouldn't even know how to put a count on it. It was overwhelming, and the amount of time it took just to manage that it was a full-time job, just to manage not having a system. One of the decision factors on ProShop, you have to consider the cost of any system you're implementing. The way I looked at it, especially in the subscription model, was the pricing aligned really well with a full burden hourly rate for me as a cost, right? So on a per user basis, that cost, I was able to kind of look at it and go, is it going to save the average person that works for me an hour a month? If so, it's going to pay for itself. What we found real quickly was on the shop floor, it was saving people probably an hour or 2 a day. And in the front office, it was saving people probably 3 to 4 hours a day. So you take that out on a monthly basis, and we're making money, right? So that was one way I looked at it, is what is it saving me is just time, and we don't have enough time here.
So I stepped into the management about just over a year ago. And doing that, I kind of opened up a whole new section of ProShop that I'd never seen before, that I never really had to deal with, like PO side, talking to customers, making sure POs are correct, and all, just the kind of behind the scenes stuff that you don't really see out on the floor. So being in management, you see a different side of ProShop, and you see more of the nooks and crannies that ProShop has to make sure that you're doing things right and being profitable. And it opens up a lot more tools and kind of gives you more insight. So I wish I would have known what I know now out on the floor, because it kind of shows that like all those things are super important to do, and all the documentation. And I think it's super important for us to kind of convey that to our employees, to show that like, hey, this is here for a reason, and it really helps out. And like cost breakdown and your setup time and all the recorded data and stuff. And we go over it every single day in the planning meeting. We see, how do we do on this past job? Do we need to get a new price check? Do we need to look at more material options? Who's the best outside process, like plater, painter, grind person, and it really does show you a lot of tools that you can utilize to do that.
I feel like without the help of ProShop, without the framework that it's provided, I feel like I would have been completely lost. We would have had to have hired another guy who would have then had to train me or taken the position over himself. With the framework that ProShop provides, from equipment calibration through bubbled prints, through inspection logs, all the way through procedures, so on and so forth. Everything that I needed to learn how to do my job correctly is in ProShop. I feel like without ProShop, I would probably be back in a weld bay welding today.
So daily, the first thing I look at every day is, how we're doing on revenue, right? So I look at that every single day. Second, I would say it's our must leave by date. I'm constantly looking at our must leave by date. As soon as it goes, from green to yellow, I'm looking at it and trying to see what do we need to change. Do I need to reach out to a customer and change the dates? Or do we need to figure out something in the shop to make it better to make sure we hit those dates? So those are the big things that I'm looking at every day.
So there were a few aha moments for us. One, I saw we were struggling a lot with even just our quoting, keeping track of quotes. What I found is we had had a history of responding to quotes about the second or third time a customer had asked us for it. So even just the quoting module of ProShop and being able to go in and quickly create quotes, manage them, and get those back in a 1 day, maybe 1 hour, but certainly shortening up that process from customers asking 2 or 3 times for a quote to same day, next day, was a huge aha moment. Then from there, the ease at which we were able to take an order and get it to the floor, if you needed to, within hours, was another huge aha moment. Probably one of the biggest aha moments for me, so my first ISO audit happened just about a month before we implemented ProShop. And it was the first one I'd ever been through in 25 years of my career. And it was a mess because we didn't have any, we have folders and folders and folders and binders of data. And seeing the integration of all that just into our daily process now was just mind-boggling, how simple it is now to be compliant with our certifications. I tell people all the time, we would have to deliberately work around the system now to not be compliant with ISO. We'd have to do that on purpose. ProShop has streamlined, I'd say, every one of our processes. So even back to the, quoting in a day versus maybe a week. Our order processing has gone from, where I had 3 or 4 people maybe involved in that process, where I couldn't even start a job if I had material on the floor maybe for 3 or 4 days. It's not uncommon for us now to, we have a customer that needs a rush part, let us know in the morning, and like shortly after lunch, we're running the job. And there's no way we could have done that before. So our shop floor processes, I couldn't even compare them, our old way to the new way. We always have the right print, we always have the right inspection plan, we always have good counts. Before, it was all paper-based. You put we had little folder holders on every machine. You set the travelers in there. I think everybody's probably familiar with that process. But it was so easy for maybe even an old rev of a print to be in there, right? Because someone just pulled the folder from last time, made a copy of it, stuck it out there. So the processes have been so much better. The people on the floor know what they're running next by looking at the schedule or through a variety of ways. We're running the right program. That used to be an issue, whereas now we're running a proven program every time. We have a proven inspection plan every time. Just the whole process, it's got to be saving everybody a couple hours a day. I know it is, saving everybody a couple hours a day, which is just production. So, the efficiency comes through in that on every job we run. The biggest struggle we had in implementing ProShop was in the front office, because it did change how we purchased, how we planned, how we scheduled, more so than it changed how we ran a part on the floor, which is what I liked about it to start with. That process took a little bit longer in the front office to get everybody on board, but what we found real quickly was it kind of turned everybody's job into a part-time job, We literally were saving 40 to 50% of people's time because now they had the information. So the example is customer calls, wants to know the status of a job, and prior to ProShop, okay, I'll call you back. Had to go look on the floor. Do we have the material? Is the job even running? How many operations are left to run? Those types of things. I answer that on the phone call now. I pull up the work order, say, oh, we've got 43 of 50 done on the final op. It'll be in final inspection tomorrow. We should be able to ship to you by the end of the day. That saved me an hour on that one phone call. In our environment where we're running 2,000 jobs a year, something like that, if I could save an hour every job, right, and I'm probably saving more than that, but that's a full-time employee, right? It's 2,000 hours a year. And we're saving at least that per job between the floor and the management team.
You know, being out on the floor side of ProShop, it's very detailed in the actual manufacturing process. Like your IPCs was a huge deal, still is, always should be. I think on the work order face, it was very important for machinists to make sure the work order made sense, and I think ProShop gave every tool to make sure it made sense. Like going from one lathe op to the mill op, everything should flow, and you have all the tools to utilize that and make sure it does. Really just on the floor, you just document a bunch of things, and you make sure you're hitting your times and hitting your setups, and provides all that, and even fixturing and making sure we know where that's at so we have smooth setups and everything. It was a breeze. Yeah, it really was.
I will say one of the first things that I did here was learn ProShop. Right, I started from the beginning, looked at every single work order and every single PO that we had, and that helped me a lot to learn what we actually do. I would say we probably have about 40 to 50 active work orders in the shop at a time. So I probably spend 1 to 2 hours max a day on the schedule, depending on if we have big changes. We have a big new project, so in that case, it would take me an extra maybe 2 hours max on the schedule per day. Normally, it'd take me about 1 hour a day.
We've seen a lot of improvement, I would say, in setup time. And some of that is that we can track it now. It's not even so much, I guess for me, especially early on with ProShop, I would almost say maybe at first we thought setups were taking longer. It's because we were tracking them. So used to in a paper environment where someone could just write down, I spent 2 hours doing a setup, but if you really watched them, they weren't. That's just what the traveler said it was supposed to be, so that's what they wrote down. So I'd say the first year it was an issue of we were gathering good data, which then allowed us to break that down and say, do we need to improve setups? And what setups do we need to improve? Then we were able to actually do it, and in the cases where it's gonna be a 2.5 hour setup or a 6 hour setup, we were then able to price those jobs correctly to allow for that. So we've seen setup reductions by nature of knowing we didn't know what they were before. At first we thought they were longer, but it was just, they weren't. We had better data to track it. So the visual work instructions have been a work in progress for us, but very, very handy. So given that we had a 40-year history, we didn't try to come into this on day one of implementation and just have everything done when we went live. What we did is about 80% of our work we've run before, and we've run in some cases for 30, 45 years. We tackled those as they came up, right? So we didn't just go live with everything perfect. As we got a new order for this part number, we focused on getting all that data in there. I didn't realize till we started that process how much tribal knowledge was inside these four walls. As we've been able to record that now, so you may or may not want to use this as an ancillary story, but there's a part that was always called the Jimmy casting, because Jimmy was the only person that could run it. Jimmy doesn't run it anymore. I can put anybody on it now. And because we have work instructions and multiple people know how to run it. So it's not the Jimmy, we still call it the Jimmy casting, but it's not the Jimmy casting anymore. I'd say on different parts we use different degrees of detail on the setup instruction, work instructions. But the more complex parts, there's more photos, and I don't know how much video we've used, but with the tooling lists and the setup instructions and photos of it sitting in a vise or whatever the work holding is. Yeah, we've built that up quite a bit.
In 2019, I'd been a welder at Hill Manufacturing for 7 years. We had kind of slowed down in the fabrication department. I seen an opportunity in the quality lab. I ventured over there with Mike's permission. I started helping out, learning the ins and outs of ProShop and the quality lab. ProShop made it super easy for me to learn how to do first article inspections, how to keep track of tooling, calibration, things like that. At the end of 2019, I became the quality manager at Hill Manufacturing. So 15 years in fabrication to quality manager in 6 months. That was kind of the tip of the iceberg. It started off fairly easy. The following August, I got told that I was now a quality manager and I would have to attend an ISO 9000 meeting. That's where it became super intimidating. I was shaking for 3 days, but with ProShop's help, we made it through it pretty well incident-free. So from fabricator to passing ISO audits within a year, super incredible.
So from a quality perspective, I'm not sure we could do what we've done over the last 6 years without ProShop just on quality alone. So one of the early things when we were kind of resetting Hill after we purchased it was, so our new slogan, motto, whatever you want to call it, is just deliver quality parts on time every time. It's simple. It's a simple statement, but it's a very difficult thing to do, as anybody in this industry would know. The quality aspects of ProShop completely changed the culture of Hill. We had good quality before. We delivered good parts. We delivered them on time. We tried to do it every time. Now we can, and we can do it repeatedly. We have good inspection plans. We have, the in-process checks are all tracked. Everything else before was on paper. I know for a fact, there's no question, things were just pencil whipped like crazy. Now that doesn't happen. When we cleaned up the shop, so in 2020 when things slowed down, we spent a lot of time and money on ourselves just cleaning up the shop. You'd move a workbench and you'd find scrap parts from Lord knows how long ago, right? That people had hidden under a table. Now, we've taken an approach on the NCRs where if that part comes out of the machine and it is not a perfect part, it gets an NCR written. So our NCR percentage is super high. Now we have that NCR history at every part level that when we're going through the planning phase, we can look and start to see that, okay, we always have this problem with this part, so we need to change a process, we need to change how we're deburring or packaging or whatever it is. I would say our quality has gone, I don't know exactly how to measure it necessarily and tell you it's twofold or something, but there's complete confidence in our quality now. And I think that's also evident by the fact that we've had customers take us just in the last couple of years where we're going dock to stock now, where we don't go through their receiving inspection because they know the parts we're sending them are good. ProShop probably taught us how to plan. Hill has had a tremendous history of incredibly talented machinists that you could hand a print, say, make me a part, and they'll do it. The planning process that ProShop brought us and having the dashboards that are available to look at what's upcoming, look at what kind of like parts there are, several orders of the same part, those types of things, and really plan our shop has, certainly increased our bottom line, but I'd say almost more importantly, just allowed us a more controlled and relaxed environment where we're not just running around being responsive all the time. We're actually planning out our day, our week, our month, and hitting those targets, which allow us to be just a more efficient and profitable organization. So digitally, having everything in one place in ProShop has been tremendous. So prior, we had a shared file server. We had a folder called the master file. Then there was a customer folders in that, and then part folders inside of that. But the chances that everything made it to those folders was really slim. If it was emailed to one person, maybe they saved it on their desktop. Somebody else saved it in the master file. That information just was not shared across the organization to everybody that needed it every time. The fact now of even being able to just take an email from a customer that says just maybe some minute detail about a job we're running and just save that as a PDF to the part level, everybody has all the information at the same time. So we have proven programs for things. We have approved models. We have approved prints. We have shared work instructions. Everything for this run and the previous 10 runs and the next 10 runs of that part is in one location. Everybody can see it. We're not making the same mistake we made last time on multiple jobs in a row. All of our customers, pretty much without exception, require certification, certificate of conformance, so forth. They all have their own, maybe first article and just general inspection reporting we have to provide. Having that all in one place on ProShop has just made that job simple. Prior to ProShop, I would field phone calls of, hey, we need this cert, or we need a first article report. And we had it, but it didn't necessarily go. ProShop walking us through that process of final inspection and then even with the shipping instructions, it happens nearly automatically that those things just go with the shipment. Customers are happier. We're not responding to things every day, having to provide those. We measured on time prior to ProShop. I'm not sure that it was accurate at all. Matter of fact, I know there was there were some customers that we would call the day of and say, hey, change the date to this, we're shipping it today. We were good, but we couldn't have told you really what we were. Now we can, and even some of the features in ProShop where you have the request date and a do it doc date, we're not only able to measure did we hit the customer's expectation, but did we also hit our expectation?
For ISO, I want to say, so we always try to make it to where our on-time delivery is 85% or better. I would say we're hitting 85% right now.
One of my biggest hesitations and warnings I got from the management team when we looked at going to ProShop was that the floor would just reject this. It's so much change. They've never had to use computers out there, and a lot of them hadn't really used computers much at all. I mean, we actually taught one guy how to use a mouse, which reminded me of how we did it back in the 90s. I mean, and that was very common for us in the 90s. So we were fearful that it would be rejected. What we found was that it was very welcome change on the floor. While I expected some pushback, literally within a few days, they were using the system. They weren't fighting the system. Now it took longer for maybe one guy to remember to clock into a job, type thing. But I mean, today I'd say we have great compliance with using the system. Everybody likes it. They can get the information they need to do their job. It's been a really easy transition on the floor. From a reducing the paperwork and putting it all in a system standpoint, I think maybe one of the biggest advantages for us that I didn't foresee was really on the back end. So it wasn't so much that we were losing paperwork on the floor Those tended to make it through the shop okay, but they got lost once they came back to the office. So customer calls, needs inspection data that maybe wasn't sent with the shipment. We didn't have it. It was in that folder that no one can find. So bringing that data in-house into one system has eliminated that concern. We always have that just at our fingertips now. While we're on the phone, we don't even have to go look for it.
The paperless side of ProShop is super beneficial. Whether I am at work or at home needing to look at something, I have access to my drawings, I have access to my inspection reports. I could be sick tomorrow and still be able to answer questions from home about where we're at in the process of a job, what my first article dimensions look like, what in-process inspections were taking place. Anything that I need is available not only in the building, but elsewhere. If I need to track something down for a customer, for my boss, for myself.
Since we've implemented ProShop, I would say it would be hard to pinpoint a few things that have improved purely because of ProShop. I would more venture to say everything has improved. And with our tagline being deliver quality parts on time, every time, you can imagine that most of the KPIs we track kind of relate to quality and on time and efficiencies and those sorts of things. And all of those things have improved. Some of them because of ProShop, and some of them we can track because of ProShop. So our quality audits now with ISO are so simple. We never leave the conference room except for about a 30-minute walk around the floor. You know, of course, in 2020, 21, and 22, I believe, they were done over the internet. Every auditor we've had, both ISO and when we have customer quality audits come in, they're blown away by the system. One of them has another client that uses it, and so they were familiar with it. Everybody else is just, what is this system? Where do we get it? I want to start recommending this to people. I didn't realize how much our customers would appreciate our ERP system. They want quality parts on time every time. What I found is when we're working through large projects, maybe we're working through problems, anything like that, and I'm able to sit in a conference room with them or in their conference room and pull it up on the internet, and they see how we're managing our shop, their confidence in us has only risen, right? And we've had customers, because of what we can do and the data we can show, that have taken us to what they call dock to stock, just meaning we bypass their receiving inspection because they believe in our systems and our procedures enough because of what they've seen on those screens to trust that we're going to send them good parts. We've absolutely won more business from new and existing customers because of what we can show them we do in our quality process, in our entire manufacturing process. So a new employee, this is kind of an internal battle for us right now. We need a better onboarding process, and a lot of that would be more ProShop training to get them to the floor. But the flip of that is that ProShop's intuitive enough that we can usually have them on the floor running parts within a couple hours. We need to train them a little bit more to get more and more good data and where to find work instructions and those types of things. But I think it's sped us up so much we're skipping steps.
I would say something about ProShop that I really like is that transition from what you see out on the floor on the work face versus what you see behind the scenes on the PO. All those things are very well tied together. So if you need to find any kind of piece of information, it's all linked some way, somehow in ProShop. And so I've always told this to Kyle also, is like, if you even think about a work order that you did like a month ago and you're like, do you remember that? You can kind of go back and do your research, and eventually you're going to find it because it's so well linked and it's so well put together that it's hard not to find a work order or find what you did back in 2019 or something like that because it's so well documented. And I think taking that step behind the scenes, it was very well kind of cushioned because everything's so well put together, you know what I mean, to do that. So,
I think that the use of ProShop from starting off in the estimates all the way through final inspection to invoicing. My title is quality manager, but I think I'm involved through 98% of the process that we do here. From the PP checks and planning all the way through calibration dates. If somebody needs a tool and I don't know where it's at, I can look on ProShop, I can find it. Operators, it helps them with locations of fixturing. It's just so versatile. Anything that we need, ProShop offers.
I'd say Hill has probably grown to a point where we rely on every feature of ProShop. And maybe the best way to put that is, again, if you look at my background coming out of software into private equity and then buying a shop, I didn't know what I was doing. I know how to run a business, but I didn't know how to run a shop. I would say ProShop taught me how to run a shop, and it taught my management team how to run a shop correctly. So where we were doing things certain ways, we pretty much over this time period have defaulted to adapting those processes, some processes, to the ProShop way, because the built-in best practices just have us performing better than we would if we were just out here trying to figure it out on our own. So when we bought Hill, we had very lofty growth goals. We were buying a 42-year-old shop at the time that had tremendous legacy business, but a lot of capacity. The goal was to double in 5 years. It's been 6. We did double in 5 years, and we did it with 20% less employees than we had to start. Absolutely impossible without ProShop. Would not have happened, could not have happened. The efficiencies that it brought throughout the entire organization allowed that to happen. One of the first strategic plans we did, and a lot of the people a lot of my management team never really believed me when I said this is the way it should be. I've been in a lot of businesses, in a lot of different industries, in a lot of high stress environments. I have felt like from the beginning of buying Hill that this could and should be one of the least stressful environments I've been in. For example, I should know if I'm in charge of shipping, I should know like I'm shipping that job next Tuesday, and I shouldn't have to scramble around to figure that out, right? So I think what ProShop has brought us is allows us to be more proactive, which means you're not as reactive, which means generally you're not as stressed. So you're able, you know what's going on and you can deal with it. Versus prior to that, we didn't always know what was going on. Things were lost in the shuffle, and then you were scrambling. We still scramble every day. I mean, I think there's probably not a job shop around that doesn't scramble every day because of a customer need, because of a problem. But it's more of a controlled chaos maybe now. And it's very, very manageable, and I think it's helped a lot towards the culture that I was trying to create in those early strategic plans of just a controlled, relaxed but urgent environment. ProShop has absolutely increased the value of us, and I can say that with some authority and confidence that I've been involved in well over 100 businesses over the last 20 years in a buy, sell, manage, finance function. So I'm very familiar with how to value businesses. We've absolutely increased revenue, which generally should increase profit, which should generally increase the value of your company. But I would say more importantly, what we've done is we've also increased like the multiple, our EBITDA multiple from what we bought at to what we would now sell at. So in addition to doubling the revenue and therefore hopefully the profitability of the business, we've also probably at least doubled our multiplier. So really we've kind of 4 times the value of the business in a very short period of time just by having processes. The company today would survive without any one of us. That alone can double the multiplier of a lot of companies, right? Because you have investors and buyers that they don't want to buy a job, they want to buy a company that is self-performing. And we have that now, in a large part due to the processes we have from ProShop. If you're looking for an ERP system for your shop, I think the first thing you have to do is you have to decide what's important to your shop. In my case, that was delivering quality parts on time every time to fulfill the mission of our organization. So I was very focused on a solution that was best for my shop floor. ProShop was that for me. I think everybody just has to look at what are those priorities of your ERP system. Depending on your priorities, maybe there are other solutions that would be a better fit for you. I think ProShop fits most of those buckets, but I'm sure that's not always the case. I've been passionate about talking to other shop owners that are considering ProShop, and lots of times they ask me, like, why are you spending time showing me a demo? Or, it's frankly, ProShop has their hashtag, love your ERP, and I do, for one. I really, really, really appreciate the community that we've also kind of entered as being part of what I would say is like kind of the ProShop family. So the employees, even though I haven't met all of them in face to face, I feel like just through their own user communities and social media, I know a lot of them. I always can reach out, ask questions. I've met so many other shop owners locally and nationally that I now have relationships with, that we talk business, or they've become customers of mine, or I've a vendor to me, and kind of just that whole community and respect for each other. And it's been really valuable, I think, for me as kind of coming into the industry to learn from other people, but also just my team in general. They have relationships with other shops that use ProShop now because of maybe some question we asked on a forum. And they're learning, best practices from maybe a shop in Arizona, and it just helps us. I do love ProShop, and I think my entire team does. Part of it's what it does for us directly, and then part of it is the community that we have, both with ProShop themselves and other users. It's a really great community to be part of.
I really love ProShop. I would recommend it to anybody who runs a machine shop or any kind of manufacturing industry. So
I love everything that I've learned about ProShop. I know that its limits are far exceeding my knowledge, and that's probably the thing that I love most about ProShop, is knowing that it does everything that I need it to, and there's also so many features that we haven't even tapped into yet.
I love ProShop. I do.
I would say, personally, my trust of ProShop is through the roof, and I think most of my team would say the same. We've never had a issue. Maybe there's been a technical issue or just maybe our lack of knowledge of how to use the system, and there's always a resource available to us. They're truly in our best interest too, though. It's not. I don't feel like here, let me sell you hours and hours of training or upgrades to help you accomplish what you need to accomplish. We trust that when we have a question, when we need help, we're going to get it. And through some of the acquisitions of other shops we've made, ProShop's worked with us to integrate them into our processes under separate shops and separate ownership structures. These were things that were kind of unique to us, but the ProShop team stepped up, made it happen, and absolutely made it work for us. So our trust of the entire team at ProShop is unwavering. Through our growth, some of that has come through acquisition, and we've added 4 shops in the last 5 years, and those shops are standalone, but are still part of our family of companies, and we've been able to integrate those as separate entities within ProShop, but as part of our entire management structure, so that we can bring the value to those customers as well, that we're able to bring our processes and our procedures to all of our customers, even though maybe the shop is at a separate location and we have a different structure and maybe even a brand name, shop name with those customers. We're still able to present ourselves as this Hill family of companies, but manage their needs from a perspective of who the vendors are and the separate certifications maybe that one shop has over another or something like that. In the last 6 years, our first purchase in this space was Hill. We've bought 4 more shops since. We have many more acquisition plans going forward. One of the parts of our due diligence is the process of switching those shops to ProShop. That's our process. That will overlay all acquisitions we do in the future, because we see the benefits of that to growing those individual shops. My name is Mike Payne, and my shop is powered by ProShop.